Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from downtown Baton Rouge. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from downtown Baton Rouge on this Monday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Saints lose. Joe Burrow got hurt. But LSU football's got some good news. Got a quarterback commitment today. Talk about Peyton Houston with Sonny Ship at 2 o'clock. Also chat national college football storylines with Denton Day at 2:30. I got my SEC picks against a number from the weekend. So lots and lots to do. Lock us in here over the next couple of hours. Got Jacob back and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Let's crank it up the way we do every single week with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU wins on Saturday night. 20-10 was the final score inside Tiger Stadium. Really good win for LSU, and they did it behind a defense that just continues to play dominant football, and they did for 4 quarters in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. I think when you talk about this game, there's 2 ways to frame it, and I think it ultimately ties back to the way that Brian Kelly handled Michael Caldwell's question in the postgame, which by this point you've certainly heard. You can look at this for 4 hours, or you can look at it in the grand scheme of 4 months. And I think it changes when you view it one way versus the other. Let me explain what I'm saying. If you just look at it for 4 hours, great job. Awesome. You went out there and absolutely smothered Florida. You picked off DJ Lagway 5 times. Deshaun Spears played 9 snaps, had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. The Gators could not run the ball at all. 27 carries for 79 yards. They really only mounted 1 drive in the game. You controlled them defensively. Offensively, Nussmeier made 1 terrible throw on a 3rd and a million, and he's rolling to the right and throws it back across the field, which just should not happen. But other than that, you controlled the ball. You punted when you needed to. You had 1 good scoring drive. And after Deshaun Spears ran that interception back for a touchdown in the 3rd quarter to give yourself a 10-point lead, like, you pretty much just controlled the action and kept them at arm's length. At no point in the second half was LSU in significant danger of losing the game. And that's against an SEC team in a big-time environment. And it was very good. And to start the season 3-0 with wins over Clemson and Florida, which may not be great teams. Clemson's story yet to be written. I think we kind of know where Florida's headed. Could have said that last year, but I feel pretty confident saying again this year. It's a good start for LSU, and Saturday night was a good win. You won a league game at home by 10 points. Good job. And that's the way you can frame it. If you want to look at it in the context, though, of 4 months, and you want to look at it in terms of competing for championships, well, then you've got to talk about the sustainability of what you're doing, right? Because 1 win doesn't get you into the playoff. You need 10 of them. If you want to win the SEC, probably need to win 11, maybe 12. And if that's the case, the way that you're playing offense right now may not be good enough. It might be. You might have one of the best defenses in school history, and you may be able to win every single game 23-17. You may be able to win another one 14-10. You may be able to win another one 17-7. Like, you may be able to do that. I don't think you will. I think to win all your games, to go compete with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, to compete with the way Marcel Reed is playing at Texas A&M, to potentially compete with Lenora Sellers, we assume he'll be back by that point, and the explosiveness that he can provide, to compete with John Mateer in Oklahoma, to go to Tuscaloosa, the way that Ty Simpson's throwing the ball the last 2 weeks. If you want to do that and beat those teams consistently, I don't think 20 points like you did against Florida or 17 points like you had against Clemson is going to be enough. And that's where the question came from Michael Cauble with WBRZ on Saturday night. And Brian Kelly was cranky about it. And the point of the matter is, and Brian Kelly apologized today, and it's water under the bridge, doesn't matter. But and I'm not here to talk about the back and forth or who is right and who is wrong. What I'm telling you is Michael Cauble was looking at this in a 4-month prism, and Brian Kelly was looking at it a 4-hour prism. That's what you saw in that postgame. Brian Kelly wants to talk about his team winning a 2-score conference game. Michael Cauble's going, yeah, but we talk a lot about the playoffs around here, and LSU's won 3 national championships in the last 20 years, and you need to play a little better offense, right? And that's where the disconnect happened. So I'll lead the show today, starting talking about the defense. We'll talk about the offense next. The defense was awesome. And here's the thing I love about this defense. They're just so sound fundamentally. They had one bust, and they got bailed out by the holding. And it was a holding. You had the long touchdown to Ball where they lost him in the backfield in the defensive backfield, and he would have gone for a touchdown. But the holding brought it back, which, by the way, was hilarious. Jacoby and Guillory was down there by himself, waving them all back. That was high comedy to me. But that was the only bust really the entire game. Outside of that, LSU is in position. They set edges. They make tackles. It is not a defense that is predicated on making a ton of sacks and TFLs and that thing and that type of deal. It's just rock solid all over the place. I was looking, and I have a piece up at LouisianaSports.net right now called Statistically Speaking that's talking about LSU's defense. When you look at their sacks, they've got 7 on the season. That's 48th in the country. TFLs, they've got 14 on the season. That's 89th in the country. When you look at what they do everywhere else, 11th in the country in scoring defense, 5th in the country in run defense, 11th in the country in yards per carry allowed, 26th in the country in yards per attempt passing, 12th in the country in red zone defense. In terms of red zone attempts, teams have only gotten into the red zone against LSU 3 times in 3 games. They're 3rd in the country in that metric as well. They're 11th in the nation in 10-plus yard runs. They're 12th in the nation in 20-plus yard plays. Like, all these statistics, they're in the top 15 in the nation. They're not in terms of sacks and tackle for loss. It's not that type of defense. We're here. No easy throws, no gash runs, no chunk plays. You have to do it to go down the field against this team. You have to do it time and time and time again and get 4 yards and get 6 yards and get 7 yards and get 3 yards and get 8 yards and get 2. Like, you have to just consistently try to grind your way down the field. And LSU doesn't give you an inch. The only touchdown drive that Florida produced, Lagway had to convert 3 straight third downs. And the last one, he had to drop it in the bucket in the corner of the end zone with great coverage by Tamarcus Cooley. It's a great throw, great catch. Great throw, great catch. Greg McElroy said this on the broadcast. Like, perfect throw, great catch. Like, defense is usually going to lose that battle. Like, every once in a while you're in, but I mean, and if you make them make a perfect throw on a fade route to the back corner of the end zone as their most effective play on a drive, you've just about done all you can do as a defense. The consistency with which this team is playing on the defensive side of the football is phenomenal. You look at the second half against Clemson, shut them out. The entire time the first team was out there against Louisiana Tech, which will be a footnote on this whole deal, shut them out. And then in the second half against Florida, Saturday night, shut them out. LSU's defense had a pick 6 and then another interception. They ran back into the red zone that set up a field goal right before the half. That's 10 points from the defense right there. Florida scored 10 points. So they scored 10 points basically and allowed 10 points. All the offense had to do was be net positive, and you win the game. The offense was plus 10. You win the game by 10 points. And the depth that LSU showed off in this game when Whit Weeks is kicked out of the game. We'll talk about it later. You've got Devon Keys, Tylen Singleton that step in. West Weeks gets hurt. Put Zach Weeks in there. They didn't score. You saw in the first game, A.J. Halsey had to come out against Clemson, sit because of the suspension. Put Jordan Gilbert back there. Good job. At corner, Delane's gotten all the headlines, right? SEC Defensive Player of the Week, Defensive Back of the Week against Clemson. Well, how about the squad this past weekend? P.J. Woodland jumps a slant route, nearly intercepts it. DJ Pickett grabs his first interception of the season. You had 5 pass breakups in this game. You had 3 different safeties with an interception. And these weren't like tip ball interceptions that were fluky at the line of scrimmage. LSU's jumping routes, reading eyes, fundamentally sound, where they're supposed to be. And Florida just had no answer. DJ Lagway was seeing ghosts the whole game. Just hitting guys in stride in white jerseys. This LSU defense is absolutely for real. Everything that we saw in fall camp has come to fruition. And this defense is the backbone of the team. They need some help, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But Florida and Clemson are probably, in my opinion, mediocre power conference offenses. Now, in those uniforms, you would suggest they're quote-unquote bad, but that's because the standard at Florida and Clemson is national championship high. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're outstanding. I think they're mediocre. I think there are teams in the power conferences that are significantly worse on offense than those two. Now, you can balk at that and say, well, Florida only scored 14 points against South Florida the week prior, and that's true. But Lagway's talented, and Eugene Wilson is talented, and they got an All-American center, and Ball's big physical back. Like, they have some guys that can function. And LSU swarmed them, smothered them, shoved them in a locker in the second half. Ball game. Awesome stuff. There are better offenses down the line that LSU's going to have to deal with. And I talked about that at the top of the segment. But that effort, Florida had the football for 21 minutes of the second half. 21 minutes. It's a 30-minute half. Florida, one time of possession, 37-22 in this game. The Florida offense was out on the field the whole game. Couldn't do anything. And that's kind of what we talked about all last week. That defense, that stadium, that was going to be a tough assignment for DJ Lagway in his first road start and that Florida team with all the pressure they were dealing with entering that game. I thought LSU might struggle to get things going a little bit offensively. They did. I thought Florida would have a heck of a time trying to get things going against LSU, and they never got things started. One real drive of consequence for the Gators, 5 interceptions, dominant effort by the defense. You win a game by 2 scores. That's great stuff. And for the course of that 4 hours, great win. Now we got to talk about the offense, and there was more news today from Brian Kelly about Garrett Nussmeier. That is the 4-month discussion. We'll have that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
In 45 minutes, we'll chat with our guy Sonny Shipp from 24/7 Sports. LSU got a quarterback commitment from Peyton Houston, 2027 class. He's Evangel's signal caller up there in Shreveport. We'll talk to Sonny about what Houston's game looks like, whether or not he was surprised that Houston went with the Tigers over Oklahoma, and what does that mean for Colton Nussmeier and Elijah Haven, who were both in his class as well. We'll talk to Sonny coming up in 45 minutes. Saints reaction coming up in 15. LSU wins it 20-10 over Florida in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night, and the defense stole all the headlines, and rightfully so. They were brilliant. The offense was not brilliant. The offense was clunky. You look at what LSU did on its first 3 drives, they did not get a first down. They came out with the football in the first drive, 3 plays, 6 yards, punt. Got the ball back, 3 plays, 9 yards, punt. Then on their third possession, 3 plays, 1 yard, punt. Those 3 drives in total did not last 3 minutes of game time. Then you got into a little bit of a groove. You got the field goal drive that was set up by the interception. And then on the next drive, you went 76 yards on 10 plays. Nussmeier looked good. He looked in rhythm, hit Aaron Anderson over the middle a couple times, had the touchdown pass to Xavier Thomas on a gorgeous throw and catch. And that looked like you were kind of feeling it. And I was puzzled why on the next drive, midway through the second quarter, LSU decided to punt when I thought you had a hot quarterback and you needed to get a yard. Now, you're not very good at getting a yard, and Brian Kelly said today in his press conference that there were a couple of auto goes on the analytics that he decided to punt because the defense he trusts. And we talked about that for 2 weeks now since the Clemson game. He's going to change the way that he coaches based on the way that this defense is playing, and it worked. You won by 2 scores. But you got a field goal from the interception right before the half. You go in with the lead, and then here are your second half drives. 3 plays, 1 yard punt. 4 plays, 40 yards, punt. 4 plays, 48 yards, ended on the interception. You had the one nice connection to Bauer Sharp, and then you had the final drive of the game where Caden Durham busted the 51-yard run. But it was punt, interception, punt in the second half, and that's just not good enough. The running game was anemic. It has been now for 3 games. I looked up the statistics earlier today. You're talking about a rushing offense right now that is 117th in the country with 110 yards per game. Yards per carry, you're 109th in the country. And your scoring offense is 108th in the country. Like, that's not a sustainable way, in my opinion, to win games. You've got to find a way to be better on the offensive side of the football than you have been through the first 3 games. Nussmeier, 15 of 27, 220 yards, a touchdown, and that really bad interception. The running game, 25 carries for 96 yards, which looks decent until you realize that for 58 minutes and 20 seconds, it was atrocious. You had the one, look, it's 3rd and 1. You got to get a first down. You bust one for 51 yards. That's great. I'm glad you busted it for 51 yards. I prefer that than not doing it at all. I'd really like it to get going in the first 58 minutes of the game if you can find it. And maybe they found something with that I formation with Jack Pyburn at fullback and going under center. We'll see. But you've got to be a lot better than you were offensively in this game. And now that brings us to the news of today. Brian Kelly said in his press conference, Jacques Doucet from WAFB asked him, hey, is there something mechanically with Nussmeier that's just not quite right? And Brian Kelly kind of looked and he went, well, I wasn't going to say anything, but like he's dealing with a torso injury and he's battling through it. My antenna has been up on this for a month, okay? I've been going to LSU football practice since 2010. That is 15 years I've gone out to LSU football practice. I do not recall ever in 15 years going to a practice and seeing the starting quarterback take reps and not throw any footballs. I've never seen that. We saw it twice inside 2 weeks of the Clemson game. The Saturday prior to that game, we went into Tiger Stadium for a full squad workout, and Garrett Nussmeier never threw the ball and didn't take reps. And then Brian Kelly was asked about it, and he said, well, he just on a pitch count. We don't want to overwork his arm. And my antenna was up on that. And we talked to Garrett Nussmeier prior to the Clemson game, and Koki Riley from The Advocate asked him about kind of the pitch count and the workload kind of being limited a little bit. And Garrett kind of looked at him and said, yeah, I don't know anything about that. And so I'm sitting there going, okay, something's up. And Brian Kelly confirmed that today with a torso injury. This makes sense. LSU is not pushing the ball down the field. They threw 3 balls beyond 20 yards in the game on Saturday. They're not really doing much of that at all this year. They tried on the deep ball the first drive against Louisiana Tech, and the ball came up 15 yards short of where it was supposed to be. Now, he may have just thrown a duck. It may have just been a bad throw, or it may be a torso injury doesn't allow him to throw it that far. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not talking to Garrett, and I'm just going off the press conference answers. But I can put all these dots together and go, he's not right. And I'm fine with LSU not revealing that. I've made my stance on injuries very, very clear. I don't believe the press has a right to an injury report. I don't believe the opposition has a right to an injury report, and I don't care about gamblers that feel like they need to know injury stuff. You're gambling your money. It's a gamble. So if you don't have the right injury report, I don't care. So I'm fine with the way LSU has handled this and not revealing it. And some are saying, well, there's an injury report. Why wasn't he on it? Well, we found out that you don't have to put a player on an injury report unless that player misses practice time or is limited. Now, I would suggest Garrett was limited in what we saw in August. It's now been 4 weeks since then, so I don't know what he's doing right now. And if he's not limited and he is going through everything that they want him to do, well, then you don't need to put him on the injury report. And I'm, again, 100% fine with hiding that. I think it would be a disadvantage to give your opponent the information that your quarterback's dealing with a torso injury. I agree with all of that. I disagree vehemently with Brian Kelly with one quote today from the press conference. He said that he can't really shut it down until the bye week. Incorrect. He can shut it down right now, today, with Southeastern on the schedule on Saturday. That is a glorified scrimmage. Southeastern Louisiana may as well play a different sport than LSU altogether. They did not score a point against Louisiana Tech. Their players, this is literally a true story. I found this out this morning. My buddy lives in New Orleans. He moved this week. 2 of the guys that helped him move play football for Southeastern. That's their side job. Like, not a lot of LSU guys carrying dressers in Baton Rouge to help people move for side gigs. The NIL stuff takes care of that. There is no reason, zero whatsoever, that Garrett Nussmeier needs to be throwing footballs and game plan and taking reps for Southeastern Louisiana this week. This is a bye week. You put this on the schedule as a bye week. Period. So I understand that college football players work extremely hard 12 months out of the year. Early morning wake-ups, running 110s, weightlifting, game plan, film watching, practices, study hall, tests. Like, it is an enormous burden on them for 12 nights a year. Enormous. And to take that away from some folks, I get it. It's hard to do. But there are bigger things that need to be accomplished here than beating Southeastern on Saturday. You're going to beat them no matter who you put out there. LSU could literally play Juwan Johnson at quarterback and crush Southeastern on Saturday. They could play any of the walk-ons that they've got on the field at quarterback. I don't even know any of their names on the team. They can play quarterback. LSU would win the game handily. It's not a fair fight. They shouldn't even play these games against FCS schools. It's not a fair fight. But it does give you, if you're going to put this on the schedule and you're going to write them a check and they're going to come in here and lose by 50-something points, you might as well use it to your advantage. And if the advantage is Garrett Nussmeier not taking reps this week and not going out there and playing against Southeastern Louisiana a week before you got to go to Oxford and try to score with Ole Miss, sit him down. I'm not a doctor. I don't know exactly what's going on with Garrett. Maybe rest doesn't help. But if you tell me that he can't shut it down, quote unquote, until the bye week, which is after Ole Miss, I disagree. You shut it down right now. If there's any way that 5 days off is going to help this torso injury, oblique, pec, ribs, whatever it is, if 5 days helps, take the 5 days. Michael Van Buren could use some reps. Newsflash, Garrett Nussmeier has been banged up in his 2 years as a starter. He's got a bit of a shoddy offensive line. He takes a lot of hits. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. You might need your backup quarterback at some point. He did not have a great training camp. Get him 4 quarters of action against an FCS team. If he throws 2 interceptions or wildly misfires on a couple of balls, it doesn't matter. You're going to win. Southeastern could play this LSU defense for a month and a half. They wouldn't score 20 points. So if this is a significant deal that's really bothering him and is a reason that your offense is compromised and not pushing the ball down the field and not scoring a lot of points, and he doesn't look like the same quarterback he was last year, and rest is going to help him, then sit him down. There's no reason to put him out there against an FCS team. So I feel confident in saying that he's going to practice fully this week and he's going to go out there and play. So if I'm not going to get my wish that he sits the whole game, they need to go out there and hang 35 in the first half so he can sit the second half. Like, if you're not going to give me my way where he sits the whole week, at least let him sit the second half. This is a team that has big, big aspirations, and they've gotten off to a good start. There are a lot of landmines down the way, and LSU, as I said in the first segment, is not going to get to an SEC championship game, a playoff, a second round of the playoff, a semifinal, a national championship game situation. None of that is going to happen if they keep scoring 17, 20 points a game. And the guy that's got to get them out of this is the quarterback. It's 18. They're not all of a sudden going to turn into a machine on the offensive line. They're not all of a sudden going to become one of the most feared rushing attacks in college football. It's not going to happen. They can get a lot better throwing the ball. They can be a lot more effective and efficient throwing the football and moving and getting points. Garrett showed it last year. But he's inaccurate right now. They're not getting the ball down the field. He's obviously compromised. Everything needs to be done to get him into the best shape he can be in. And that doesn't mean go through 4 practices this week and then go play Southeastern on Saturday. He needs to sit. It's a hard thing to tell a fifth-year senior, but it's the right thing to do for the team. And I believe Garrett Nussmeier wants a lot of great things for this team. I think he knows how he feels, and I think LSU needs to do the right thing. I just don't have the confidence they're going to do that. It's just so very rare when an athlete can play and is withheld from doing so, just as a precaution. It rarely happens. I don't think it's going to happen on Saturday, but I certainly wish that it would. All right, chugging right along here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We come back. Saints come up in one play short once again yesterday. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. America's best warranty. Love telling you about it. Powertrain warranty, 10 years, 100,000 miles. Bumper to bumper, new vehicle warranty, 5 years, 60,000 miles. That is industry leading. 24/7 roadside assistance. That comes with you for 5 years, no matter how many miles you drive. That complimentary scheduled maintenance, 3 years, 36,000 miles. They come to you. Bring your car back for service. Bring it back to you. Complimentary. That's just part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. Whether you're looking to get into a sedan, you're looking to get into an SUV, no matter what your family situation or life situation may be at the moment, Genesis has a vehicle for you. Go by and see them. Airline at PQ. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you in there. Test drive one of those vehicles and just get that Genesis experience. It's a luxury brand at a reasonable price, and all the models are IHA top safety picks. Genesis of Baton Rouge. Find them online. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
One hour from right now, Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. We'll chat national college football storylines at 2:30, 2:15. We'll go through my picks against the spread and some SEC storylines. Thought Josh Heupel just got too conservative in that game up in Knoxville, and that cost the Vols a chance for a huge win on Rocky Top. We'll talk about that in hour number 2. New Orleans Saints come up short in the ball game on Sunday in the Dome. Mac Jones and the San Francisco 49ers come in with a host of their fans, it appeared. I had a couple friends that were at the game, said it was remarkable how many 49ers fans were in attendance, and San Francisco escapes. 26-21 was the final. Let me briefly do the pro sports thing, because all these guys are handsomely paid. Everyone who gets on the field is expected to perform at a high level, and losing is not going to be something that's acceptable in the grand scheme of things. You're out there to try to win the football game. The Saints have had opportunities for the last 2 weeks to win games, and they haven't won them, and that's not a good thing. And when you look at the schedule and the way things are moving in the wrong direction, it can get really ugly really fast. This was a big game. The Saints had an opportunity to win. It would have been really good for their psyche, and I think everyone overall for them to get it. I don't think they're going to Seattle and winning. Don't think they're going to Buffalo and winning, and then you really need to get on the right page in the next couple of weeks because you've got some winnable games at home, but it feels like it could slip away. That's the most important thing when you talk about professional sports. You got to win games. But I think all of us are aware of where the Saints are right now. And so I am going to look at some positives. That's going to sound like a moral victory, going to sound like, you're not paying attention to the right things, but we understand where the Saints are right now. When you make a trade on Saturday for a guy that can't play this year, I think it's pretty evident that you're looking towards the future, right? So let's just agree that trading for Polk, who's on IR, they got an eye on the future. And I'm going to have an eye on the future as I watch this team. And I had an eye on the future watching this team yesterday. And I'll say this. I liked what I saw from Spencer Rattler yesterday. I liked it. Yes, he's got to hit that throw to Olave for a touchdown on that first drive. Like he's wide open, breaks free, great route. The throw was a little bit early and it was a little bit behind him. and Olave doesn't make the catch. I heard Hester and Flynn talking this morning. He's got to make that catch. He's a Pro Football number 1. I'm not going to argue with him on that at all. I think it's reasonable that he can catch that ball, but I know that the ball's got to be thrown better than that. It's got to be out in front, and the guys admitted that as well. That's not a play you like, and you get the sack fumble, and that's a disappointing end to the game in that respect as well. But there was so much in the middle that was good, and like I've watched Spencer Rattler play a lot of football, preseason football last year, starting some games for the Saints last year, preseason football this year, 2 games this year. Like you're now starting to get a sample size that's pretty big, and I didn't see squat last year or in the preseason that made me think, okay, that's pretty good. Like I have not been impressed at all. I was impressed with a lot of stuff yesterday. It was clearly his best effort. You look statistically at it, and he set career highs in passing touchdowns. He had 3 of them. In passer rating, 118. In completion percentage, 74%. And I thought some highlight reel plays. I mean, he dropped it in the bucket to Shaheed for that one-handed catch down the left sideline. I liked the ball placement on the throw to Juwan Johnson for that turning touchdown in the corner of the end zone. Really good throw on a 3rd down. How about the 3rd and 6th play when they're in 49ers territory in the second quarter, and he gets hit at about the 4-yard mark and just battles through and gets that first down on the ground. I thought that showed toughness, athleticism. Thought that was really, really good. I loved the throw to Veli for the touchdown on 1st and goal. That's exactly the role that you brought him in to play, the big physical shield, the defender body in the red zone that they didn't have. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are going to struggle to make that play. But Vele is 6'4", and he can go in and shield the guy off and make the catch. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about putting these young quarterbacks, in this case it's Rattler individually, in a position to be successful with pieces around them. You want the best ecosystem possible for these guys to develop. And for the first time, I saw yesterday Spencer Rattler look like he was in command. I thought he was decisive. I thought his arm looked strong. I thought he was accurate for most of the day. I thought he moved the football. I thought there was a lot of really good stuff. He's got trouble on the interior offensive line, and the running game's not exactly what you would like it to be, even though Kamara's running hard. Miller looks better than he has. The positive for me in this game was that Rattler kind of looked the part of an NFL quarterback. And nobody is suggesting in September of this year that he needs to look like an MVP. But you need to see improvements. I saw improvements yesterday. I really did. And I thought there was a good chance they were going to go down and get it done. I really did. They looked good offensively in the second half. So that's a lot of positive on the offensive side, especially Rattler. The defense stunk. It was just bad. They let McCorkle Jones, shout out Jacob Hester for consistently referring to him as McCorkle, but they let Jones throw for 279 and 3 scores. I thought there were guys running open too often. They don't have George Kittle, who's their safety blanket. Juwan Jennings is a little bit gimpy. He comes up with 5 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown. I just didn't think the defense played very well, specifically the secondary. And that is disappointing because you've got some young guys in that secondary that you really feel need to be hits on this team. And I knew that Kyle Shanahan would have a plan. I think he's one of the best offensive coaches in college football, but I thought that the Saints could affect Mac Jones a little bit more and maybe force some mistakes, and you just didn't really see that. They sacked him 3 times, but he didn't turn it over, didn't throw an interception. The ball wasn't really in harm's way all that much. I wish you would have had Chase Young in this game to potentially impact things a little bit more. That's a guy that you really need to come back and to be maybe your best player on defense. But I'm disappointed that the Saints, with the backup quarterback out there, allowed the 49ers to go score those 26 points. I thought that I thought more of the Saints defense, and you start to look at this and realize, like, there's just not a guy on this defense that you look at as just an impact guy and a star. I hesitate to say that about Demario Davis because of his track record, what he's meant to that team, the position he plays and how well he plays it. And he's clearly their most productive guy. He had 1 billion tackles in week 1. He had 11 more yesterday. And at his best, he was an all-pro and one of the best linebackers in the sport. And he's not significantly less than that right now. But when you think about the best defensive players in the league and the impact that those guys can have, I just don't know that you look at anybody on this Saints team in that light. Chase Young could be, but he's not playing. And so you start to look across the rest of the line, and like Devon Gottschall was their worst graded player on PFF yesterday. Brian Brzee is a great athlete, a good pass rusher. Is he great stopping the run? I don't know about that. Carl Granderson, okay. But then
Carl Granderson's been really good. I mean, he had 2 sacks in this game. And
he did.
He had a sack and a half in the first. He's currently got 3.5 sacks in 2 games. He's good.
He's good. Where would you rank him as far as pass rushers in the NFL?
Yeah, that's the
15th.
He's probably
18th,
not in the
20th.
top 10, but
you need stars. And I'm looking at a lot of the young players that they've got, and I'm looking at Alontae Taylor, who made a couple plays, had a really nice play breaking up a ball in the middle of the field. It's not that there's never a play. There's just not enough of them. And I don't see stars on that Saints team the way that when you look at other teams in the NFL, you just immediately notice their stars. And if Carl Granderson is your best player, like, he's a good player. Is he a star? I don't know about that. So it's not all positive, but it's not all completely negative either. Let's hope they can tread water the next 2 weeks and don't get just completely outclassed away from the dome. But I think for me, when I look at this organization where they are, when I look at this team, I look at a team, I thought there were some strides made offensively yesterday, and I'm not going to completely dismiss those, even though calling for moral victories in professional sports is absurd. But we're analyzing the team. I thought that there was some really good stuff from Spencer Rattler yesterday, and hopefully there's more. Something
to note, too, after a really good preseason and training camp, Blake Grupe has missed 2 field goals.
Yeah.
And, these are both close games. If he makes that field goal, which was in the first half, at the end of the game there, you're only down 2 or 3 points. So then you can kick a field goal instead of having to go for the touchdown. So it's you need Blake Grupe to make those field goals.
No doubt. And here's where I am on that. If you have your kicker of the future in Blake Grupe and he's here for 12 more years, that's awesome, because that's a key thing to have. How happy are they in Dallas with what they found as far as a kicker goes? That's a big deal, and he's so young that it could be that. Kicker's 50th on my checklist.
Dude. Yeah.
It just so here's the deal. I fully endorse the fact that he's missed very makeable kicks in the first 2 weeks has significantly impacted the Saints' ability to win these games.
That's true.
Absolutely. I don't think they're going to win enough to where that's going to matter. So I'm not ranting and raving and throwing a fit. If you're a playoff team and your kicker's botching these kicks, we saw Sean Payton run guys out of town just minutes after games, it seemed like. And I endorse that. Grupe needs to be better. He needs to be better, hopefully, for his career as a Saint, as opposed to this team. I'm looking at young players improving far more than I'm looking at, hey, you can go get a kicker off the scrap heap. Grupe's got to, if he keeps going the way he's going, he's going to lose his job. But you're correct. That has absolutely impacted their ability to try to win these games late. And they've been in position. They've just got to find a way to make a couple plays later. And they just didn't quite get it done on Sunday. So Ross has got some great stuff up at the LouisianaSports.net right now. Got a breakdown of the Saints trade. Also got the news that Vernon Broughton is out for the year. He's going on IR, having surgery. So that's the draft pick that the Saints brought in that hasn't really practiced at all, that will not be a part of this team this year. So that's disappointing, no question about it, when you think about the importance of the draft for the New Orleans Saints, and not having him to be able to play at all as a rookie is a disappointing development for sure. But all your Saints coverage, LouisianaSports.net. You can also find it Hunt on Saints wherever you find your podcasts. All right, busy second hour coming up in 15 minutes. We'll close out hour number 1 with just a real bummer. At this point, I'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. I was there at Swing Easy Golf Club on Friday afternoon. Had a cold beer out of the fridge. Was playing on the simulator. Got a chance to tee it up at Pebble Beach. Got a chance to tee it up also at TPC Sawgrass. Played those famous par 3s. You can see a little video of that on our 1045 ESPN Instagram feed. It's just a great place to hang out and play. I love playing those famous courses on the simulator. You can play against your friends. You can play with your friends. You can have a cold drink. They got great seating areas. The television's up and functional. So if you're looking for somewhere to hang out, play a little bit of golf in the air conditioning, have a cold drink with friends, get a membership. You can use it, entertain clients. You can also use it to work on your game as well. They're on Segan near Perkins. Just go by and see Swing Easy Golf Club. You will absolutely be impressed. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com. It's Swing Easy Golf Club, swingeasygcbr.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Closing up hour number 1 here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Bummer yesterday. The Bengals finally get off to a 2-0 start, and now they've lost Joe Burrow for 3 months. Burrow suffered a grade 3 ligament issue in his foot yesterday on a sack. Left the game. Jake Browning came in, finished it, and got the win for the Bengals there under a minute to go with the Drew Brees quarterback sneak. But I was struck by something last night, kind of watching the highlights of the day. Like, I don't think this is hyperbole. Like, Joe Burrow's prime is slipping away. Like, it is. The Bengals are going to struggle to make the playoffs with Jake Browning at quarterback, I believe. Now, I hope he comes out and plays awesome football. But the fact of the matter is that the next 4 games with Jake Browning as the quarterback are going to be very, very difficult for the Bengals to win. The next one got a little bit more doable because you're going to be facing a backup quarterback. J.J. McCarthy got hurt last night, ankle sprain, so you're going to see Carson Wentz, but you're at Minnesota. So you're an underdog in that game. Then you're at Denver. You're going to be an underdog in that game. You come home to play the Lions with Jake Browning at quarterback. I think you're an underdog in that game. Then you're at Green Bay. You're an underdog in that game. So that's the next 4 for Browning. Now, beyond that, you've got some winnable games. You got the Steelers. You got the Jets. You got the Bears. Then you got your bye week, still Steelers, Patriots, before you got to play the Ravens and the Bills and the Ravens in a 3-week span. This is not a Bengals show, so I'm not going to break down anything further than that. This is a Joe Burrow thing. Like, he's 29 years old. He will now have missed the majority of 2 of the last 3 seasons. He played 10 games, which is not a majority, I guess, but he played 10 games in 2023 and got hurt. And then he's going to play probably 2 games on the front end and maybe 2 or 3 on the back end of this. So you're going to play 5 or 6 maybe if it all goes well. So you're going to need Jake Browning to man the battle station in 12 games. Not in a league that's got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson playing at that level. Like, their defense is not great. And the offensive line's terrible. And now Jake Browning's going to have to deal with that. And it's just a bummer because of the way things started. With Burrow in the second year getting them to the Super Bowl. And then the next year, when he was starting, they were 12-4. And you're like, okay, this is going to be a force in the AFC for years to come. And after that, he gets hurt and plays 10 games. And then last year, the Bengals get off that terrible start. And they got hot at the end, and they were playing great at the end, but they got off such a bad start. And then the irony is you play him and risk injury in the preseason, and it doesn't get hurt. They start 2-0, and now he's hurt because of the regular season. I struggle with the term injury prone. To me, blaming someone's body for that would suggest that if that exact same thing happened to somebody else, that the foot wouldn't have had the issue. Like, I just think it's bad luck. I think Joe Burrow's had bad luck. And it's a bummer. Like, you can play quarterback at a really high level in your 30s. We know that. But next year, he will be 30. And if you start to think about, maybe you decline a little bit at 35, 36, like, there's only like 5 years left. It feels like he just got there, right? And maybe you'll be great at 38, 39. Like, Brady and Breeze certainly played great football at that age. I don't know if Peyton Manning was playing great football, but he certainly won a Super Bowl at that age. So John Elway, like, it can be done, but I like watching him play so much. And it feels like we're being robbed of that because his body won't cooperate. And you can complain all you want about the Bengals and the way they run their organization and whether or not they should pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins that much money, or they should have drafted Penei Sewell instead of Jamar Chase, or they should have invested more in the offensive line to help him, and all that stuff's fair game, sure. But ultimately, I just want to watch him play. I just want him to be out there. I think it's very cool. We have that connection from what we watched here in Baton Rouge, that magical run, and I realized that one day it'll be over, and it feels like it's getting closer too fast because of the injuries that are happening. And it's just really hard to suggest that you're going to be able to watch Joe Burrow play in the playoffs this year because he's going to miss 12 games. And it's just a real bummer that happened yesterday. So my hope is that Jake Browning can tread water and they can stay afloat and make the playoffs, and Joe can come back in time to maybe spark a late run, but it just doesn't. I mean, it feels like they're likely going to lose 3 or 4 of their next 4. And that's going to put you behind the 8 ball once again. It's crazy that I would have looked at this 2.5 weeks ago and gone, Cincinnati's 2-0 and the Chiefs are 0-2. That's a really good start. The Ravens lost an early game. So you're now right there jockeying for position at the top. It's so early, but you are, as opposed to playing catch up and always having to go on the road to play those teams in the playoffs. But now with Burrow out, it's we'll see. Bummer up there in Cincinnati. That's it for hour number 1 here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. If you missed any of it, I talked about LSU's defense, talked about the Garrett Nussmeier injury, all that you can find at Hunt on LSU. Also recap the Saints loss. That's Hunt on Saints. When we come back, Sonny Ship's going to tell us about the quarterback commitment LSU got today from Peyton Houston from Evangel. We'll talk recruiting with Sonny after National Headlines and Sports Center.
The Hunt Palmer Show.